Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Joe and welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be talking about something that might get a few people a little bit triggered, but overall I just feel like it's a good, healthy discussion to talk about. And it's going to be, can Valve revive Team Fortress 2 in 2020? And I know using the word revive isn't necessarily correct, but it's just for a lack of a better synonym. I really can't think of a better word to use in terms of, can Valve bring Team Fortress 2 back to the great state that it was once in, and can Valve make Team Fortress 2 great again? Now, I want to disclaim this. I'm not necessarily suggesting that Team Fortress 2 is dead at all. I'm just suggesting that the game isn't in a healthy or good state compared to what it has been in the past, and compared to other projects that Valve have going on that are of a similar age, things like Dota and Counter-Strike. I'm going to be comparing those and just taking a look at what Valve could do to Team Fortress 2 to bring it back to the golden age, so to speak. Or alternatively, is it just too far gone? Is the new decade, 2020, going to be the decade where the Team Fortress franchise as a whole slowly fades into the abyss? So I've got 5 little subcategories that I'm going to be talking about. The first of which is in-game competitive. Now, I don't think it's a necessity for Team Fortress 2 to have a competitive mode. However, when Valve added the competitive mode way back in the Meet Your Match update in 2016, it's left a lot to be desired. The mode is really hard to queue into a game. I don't know if you watching this have tried to queue into a game of competitive within the past 2 or so months, but it often takes well over 10 to 20 minutes to get into a game, and when you finally do, you're often either getting steamrolling, or are in a game with multiple cheaters to where it's just not enjoyable to play, even if you're on the same team as them. However, with this in mind, I do see a lot of potential in the TF2 competitive mode. I think the core idea of slowly climbing up the ranks like you do in other competitive modes is great. It's just the core system of it doesn't work at the moment, and if you want a real competitive experience, the only real way to achieve it is to get a full team and sign up to something like UGC or something along those lines, to where you can do a third-party competitive experience, or alternatively, just try really hard in casual. It's the next best thing we've got in-game. And it is a real shame. I hope that Valve can do something to the competitive mode to revitalise it, fix the ranking, fix the queue times, and place some sort of restrictions on people leaving, because I remember that being a huge issue when I played, that people would queue in and leave near instantly, meaning you'd have to re-queue for another half an hour. Also, right, as an editor's note, I fully acknowledge Team Fortress 2 isn't necessarily meant to be a competitive game in nature. However, it clearly has a competitive interest. Its audience is clearly interested in competitive because it has things like UGC, to where if they're going to introduce competitive, why not make it good? It's not mandatory to play it. You can just play it if you're looking for a not casual experience. I briefly touched upon it there, but I talked about cheaters in competitive, and that brings me on to my second point, is cheaters as a whole. So my last video actually is this video where I was talking about Team Fortress 2, and the biggest problem in Team Fortress 2 at the moment in casual is the cheaters as well. So it seems pretty clear to me that Valve need to do something about Valve anti-cheat, or the VAC system. They need to update VAC is what I'm getting at here, and they need to do it ASAP, to be honest. I've heard it's a more so like server restricted thing, where it's more so apparent in Europe than others, but there's a lot of cheaters going around using the same cheats, and Valve need to get on top of this. They do it in CSGO. There was a VAC wave less than a week ago in CSGO, and I don't remember when the last VAC wave was in TF2. And that really does put things into perspective, that if Valve want to fix cheaters in a game, they are very much within the capabilities of doing so. They're just choosing not to with Team Fortress 2. But I definitely think if TF2 is going to bounce back within the next year or so, then Valve anti-cheat is definitely going to have to step up for the game. Coming up third, this is something that covers a lot of bases that I'm sure you've been waiting for me to talk about, is the update. I think consistent content is a necessity to modern games in this era, because we're in a generation where there's so many games offering so much content so regularly that it becomes so easy to lose interest in a game and go and fulfill those desires in other games. So I think some sort of consistent content would be absolutely big for TF2, you know. So a few ideas I had are new maps or seasonal modes, etc. And what I mean by seasonal modes is that, let's say every 2 or so months there's a playlist that can be played exclusively for those 2 months. Once those 2 months are up, a new mode is introduced and the old mode goes. Whether that's exclusive playlists of maps or something along those lines, I'm not too sure. I'm gonna brainstorm this and probably bring it in a separate video. Or alternatively, if you have any ideas about this seasonal content, then let me know down in the comments below. But like, imagine there's new maps added to the game that can only be played for a set amount of time. Once that time's up, you can never touch them again. Or let's take this idea and apply it to another mode in Team Fortress 2 that could definitely use some work within the next year or so: Man vs Machine. There's no real incentive to play Man vs Machine at the moment because you've played through the same maps hundreds and hundreds of times for that small chance of getting an Australian. Why don't we add new maps to that every so often? So like an exclusive tour that has exclusive rewards that's only there for a month. Once that month expires, a new tour gets added. A month might be a bit short, let's say 2 or 3 months, so it's less work on Valve's end because, let's face it, we know they're not exactly going to be prepared to put in loads and loads of work. But I just think the core concept of that would definitely incentivize people to play Man vs Machine more. It would revitalize the market with new items being introduced that would become extinct once the mode is no longer available to play. But that's a whole other kettle of fish because I feel like Man vs Machine as a whole has so much potential for Valve, not only as a money maker but also as gameplay. They could almost shift the game more so towards Man vs Machine and pump more content in MVM of exclusive rewards or rewards that are only there for a certain amount of time, new MVM maps, new MVM missions, etc. But they just don't. I really don't understand why they don't, because I can imagine they make a significant amount of money from it already. They could ramp that up to the next level. Another idea I had that I think would be pretty cool and really incentivize people to start playing the game again more consistently is contracts that give unique rewards. So very similar to the seasonal stuff. Maybe like every 3 or so months they update the contracts for different maps, different modes, different weapons or different tasks, so to speak, that you have to complete. And there will be 2 variants of these contracts. There will be free contracts that anyone can complete, and then there will be a premium pass that you can get in a similar style to a battle pass. I know last time I discussed the TF2 battle pass, people shouted at me and told me that was an awful idea. But I just think that if there was like a premium contracts or free contracts that update every few months, and if you complete all of them there's some sort of big prize. So similar to how other games do in battle passes and stuff, if you complete every challenge in the contracts or something along those lines, there's one big reward at the end. So perhaps something along the lines of, if you have the premium pass you get an untradeable unusual. It can be any hat and any effect, it's completely random. You just open a case and it gives you a random unusual. It's untradeable and unmarketable, so it won't have too big of an impact on the economy. I don't think it will have that big of an impact at all because it's going to take a lot of grinding to get it, but then once you do get it, you get an unusual for it, and the idea is you can amass multiple unusuals from multiple sort of seasons of doing these challenges. Alternatively, for the free pass, you won't get quite as good of a prize because you didn't pay for the pass. You maybe get an untradeable Strange or an untradeable Pro Killstreak Strange, just something that incentivizes you to play through it even if you choose not to spend money. I definitely think the contracts are a great design in Team Fortress 2, and if they were updated regularly could be massive for the game's longevity. I think one massive thing that needs to change in Valve's approach to Team Fortress 2, regardless of if they add more content to the game etc or not, is just communication, and this is something we've been after for absolutely years. I'm sure if you're any part of the Team Fortress 2 community, you can relate to just how frustrating it is to just not receive any direct communication from Valve. The only real thing we have to go off is the speculation from other Valve-orientated YouTubers who, although I don't mean to discredit them, they could be absolutely waffling and we'd be none the wiser. We don't have any direct communication from Valve themselves, and it's incredibly frustrating when we're waiting for stuff to be added to the game. Like if they put out a tweet every 3 months, for example, just to say, hey, we're still working on the game, like we're working on this update, it should be out at this time. Even if that's in like a year or so, I wouldn't be mad at all. It's clear to me the TF2 devs have access to their Twitter. They actually picked it back up when the Great Depression happened, started tweeting out communication, which was fantastic, and then stopped and never touched the Twitter account again. They didn't like any tweets, they didn't tweet anything, and it's incredibly frustrating that they literally have the ability to communicate with us about whatever's going on at their hands, just refuse to use it. I think that ultimately at the end of the day, there's a lot Valve can do to improve Team Fortress 2 and overall breathe life into it for the current players. However, there's not a huge amount I can think of for such an old game to attract a new audience, apart from doing something massive like adding another class or, adding a whole new game mode where it's revolutionary. But I mean, it's Team Fortress 2. I don't think we necessarily need that appeal of trying to drag in new people to the game because it's one of the few games in my opinion that naturally has that appeal. It's a free to play game on Steam, it's easy to run, it's got a fantastic community, and there's been memes made from Team Fortress 2 characters for years. It's easily recognisable, which means it doesn't necessarily need something to drag in a whole new player base. However, I'm sure that wouldn't go amiss. At the end of the day, if Valve choose to show attention to it in 2020 or the upcoming decade, or put it on a new engine or make a Team Fortress 3, then that's their choice. We just need to hope that Valve remember Team Fortress 2 and continue to show some love to the game and its player base. Thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts on anything I said. As I said, this is meant to be more of like a discussion style video, so if you guys want to leave some comments down below, then please do so. I appreciate you all for watching, and yeah, peace.